So Hail Zeon just tagged me in this top 7 Dragon Ball moments thing, which was trending on Twitter. He decided to make a video about it, and then he decided to tag me and Uncanny Megan to do our own videos about our top 7 favorite Dragon Ball moments. So I guess I'm gonna have to do that now. Thanks for the challenge, I guess I'm going to have to accept it. I mean, I'll be honest, my opinions on the series basically changes every 2 weeks or so. So my top 7 Dragon Ball moments right now are probably not going to be the same top 7 Dragon Ball moments if you ask me a month later. But at this point, these are just my top 7 favorite Dragon Ball moments right now as of this moment. Number 7, Gotenks versus Super Buu. There's a few things in Dragon Ball and just a few things in that series in general do that if they do, that's my thing, and I'm like, okay, this is great, I love this idea now. And one of those is self-awareness. Once a series starts becoming self-aware of the things that it made famous in the first place, and just sort of decides to try and sort of do a different angle on it, or kind of subverting it, or making fun of it. And that was definitely the fight between Gotenks and Super Buu. Obviously, Gotenks was sort of a gag character from the very beginning, but for Gotenks' big fight, Toriyama decides to use it as basically a way of almost taking the piss out of everything the Dragon Ball Z had represented up until that point. Everything from the cocky attitudes to the overblown special attacks to the whole idea that the hero doesn't use his full power until he's appropriate for him to use it. He starts off by holding back immensely for no apparent reason other than he just wants to make it look cool. All those ideas were explored in the Gotenks and Super Buu fight, but the way they were explored, it was completely for comedy. It's just basically him making fun of everything that his own series represents. And I've got to say, while it might make the tone of the whole Buu saga be kind of strange, I think it is actually hilarious, especially with Piccolo as the straight man, just sort of reacting to all of the jokes. And that's why it's my number 7 spot. Number 6, Gohan goes to high school. See, before I was saying that self-awareness is one of those things that a series does, and if it does, it's my favorite thing ever. Another thing that I really like when a series does is having sort of slower kind of slice of life moments filled with more character interactions and just characters interacting with the world and not necessarily a big overlying plot happening over their heads. And that's really what the Gohan Goes to High School section and the whole sort of Great Saiyaman arc was. It was really just Gohan going around sort of interacting with the world, interacting with some of the characters, and sort of maybe learning some stuff about himself and about everything else. And the reason why I chose the Gohan Goes to High School section specifically is because it really added a lot to the universe of Dragon Ball. It really kind of explored the world of Dragon Ball's Earth in a level that we hadn't really seen before. That it sort of goes into the life of an ordinary person on Earth in Dragon Ball. See, the thing that we kind of sort of don't really remember or get to see because we're stuck with Goku and friends the whole time is that Earth in Dragon Ball isn't always just this crazy, fantastic world powered by supernatural martial arts. There are ordinary people on Earth. Random cops, petty criminals, and random high school students whose job they just want to go to high school. It adds a lot more believability to Earth in Dragon Ball when you realize that no, not everyone in this world is some kind of badass martial artist. Some of them are just ordinary people, and we get to see that for real in the series, in canon, in the manga of all things as well, in the Great Saiyaman portions of the story. And another thing I really like about the Great Saiyaman stuff is it really successfully gives Gohan a personality. See, the problem with Gohan is, while I think his character and his personality is pretty consistent throughout the beginning parts of the story of the Dragon Ball Z era, I think the problem with Gohan's character is sometimes I feel like people really sort of used him as more of the tag-along kids, this sort of audience surrogate person that everyone could just project all their power fantasies onto because he was more relatable to the main cast because he was a kid and a lot of people watching this were kids. And while honestly that's an interesting idea, I think people didn't really appreciate Gohan for his actual personality and just more appreciated him because people could project onto him. And the Great Saiyan portion really gave Gohan a lot of personality, because he honestly, for the first time, he feels like this fleshed out character. He has his own dreams and goals and motivations, and he's not just this person who sits around and passively reacts to things and then fights because people tell him to fight. He has agency, he can control his own life, and he has a personality outside of just being the kid. Granted, that personality is really just more of that of a socially awkward dork, but I still find that a really fun personality, and it makes it feel like he's really coming into his own as a unique character. Number 5. Goku vs. Vegeta, Round 1. Honestly, I think I'd have to say the first Vegeta fight is probably one of the best fights in the series. It doesn't drag on for too long, there aren't that many kind of weird sort of ass-pull power-ups. It uses a lot of the cast efficiently, and I think it probably has one of the best starts to a long-running fight in Dragon Ball. See, what I really like about the Goku-Vegeta fight, and especially the start of the Goku-Vegeta fight, is it feels like the first fight in the series where it feels like there's sort of something more, something bigger at stake than just Goku should fight this guy. It feels like there's actually a greater meaning behind this battle that's more than just, hey Goku, do you want to fight a guy because you like fighting guys? In that, especially in the Goku-Vegeta fight, it really sends these kind of big, heavy themes. Like these themes of like low class versus elites, and in the end having hard work trumping just birthright. Obviously later on in the series you do get explored to bigger themes like that as well, but I feel like this is one of the first times the series really tried to do something like this, and tried to be more than just, let's just have some fun fights that are really just fun and have no meaning behind them. And the thing especially about the Goku and Vegeta fight and the start of the fight is that it's one of the few times that those bigger themes are actually conveyed in the actual nitty-gritty of the fighting itself. The whole point is that Vegeta is this higher upper-class Saiyan warrior, and Goku should not be stronger than him. Goku should not be able to match up to him, and that is kind of the case. Vegeta, because he is a high-class Saiyan, he is stronger than Goku, but Goku has said that the planet that he lives in, on Earth, even a low class can outdo an elite if they work hard enough. And that's how it works. Vegeta is stronger than Goku, but Goku has things that Vegeta doesn't have. He has the Kaioken. He has the ability to multiply his power, to actually match up to that guy who he said from birthright is going to always be stronger than him. And this especially all comes to a head in their big beam struggle, where the two of them literally put in all of their power against each other to go and see who is the strongest. And they seem equally matched, and then Goku pulls out his trump card and decides to do the last thing he can think of and do a Kaioken times 4. And with that, he overpowers Vegeta. He shows that he is stronger than Vegeta, and he shows that hard work trumps birthright any day. So yeah, that's why it's number 5. Number 4, the ending to the 23rd Budokai. Kind of the end of Dragon Ball. Like, it's not really the end of Dragon Ball because, I mean, it's not the end of the manga because the manga keeps going, and it's not the end of the anime because the anime has a filler arc immediately after the 23rd Budokai that's still part of Dragon Ball, but basically at the end of Dragon Ball. So you know how I was saying before, I really like when the series gets kind of self-aware, and the end of the 23rd Budokai kind of explores those issues. What I really like about it is the ending where Kami is about to kill Piccolo, but then Goku stops him and says, no, if you kill Piccolo, if Piccolo dies and you die, the Dragon Balls are going to disappear as well, aren't they? And then Kami says, you know what? Maybe I deserve to die. Maybe the Dragon Balls deserve to not exist. Because literally, I created the Dragon Balls to try and help give hope to the people, and they've just been abused by terrible people, and literally also been taken advantage of by my own evil self. So why should the Dragon Balls even continue to exist? But then the Muten Roshi pops in and says, well, that may be true. The Dragon Balls have done terrible things and have been used by terrible people now. But the Dragon Balls are also how this entire cast got together. The Dragon Balls are how this story started in the first place. Because of the Dragon Balls, maybe the world got closer to getting destroyed. But because of the Dragon Balls, the world was saved. It's a really powerful moment where it really just goes through the entire series and says the Dragon Balls are what created this entire series, and it was what made everyone who they are today. And because of that, that Dragon Balls deserve to keep existing. It's really getting really deep into the whole progress of the entire series. I mean, the series is called Dragon Ball, so the fact that it actually does explore the idea of the Dragon Balls itself as more than just some MacGuffins or some kind of reset button after things get too terrible. It's one of the few times it actually does that and explores the idea of having these Dragon Balls in the first place. I mean, I know Dragon Ball GT also does this, but I feel like the way that it's handled in Dragon Ball is a little bit more poignant because, I mean, it's part of the original story by the original author, reflecting on his own work that he personally made. So I think that's honestly why I think it deserves my number 4 spot. Number 3. Goku defeats Piccolo Daimao. The Piccolo Daimao arc was really a very dramatic departure from how Dragon Ball was normally handled. It's basically what people think of when you think of the big turning point for when Dragon Ball changed from a lighthearted martial arts adventure to a show about characters having to fight to save the world. Piccolo was more than just some comedic bad guy who was, I guess, kind of an antagonist, but he wasn't a threat to Goku. No, he was a threat to Goku. He nearly killed Goku. And the fact that he basically wants to take over the world and destroy everything. And Goku is the only one who can stop him. For the first time, Goku, when he's fighting Piccolo, he's not just some guy who's going around fighting because fighting is fun. But it's also he's fighting to save the world. He's fighting to save everyone on Earth from this threat, and he's the only one who can do it. It's this first introduction of Goku as this real, actual hero. Not just a protagonist, but a hero. A flawed hero, a terribly flawed hero, but a hero nonetheless. And not to mention, the way he kills Piccolo is probably one of the coolest and most awesome Goku moments that really, I think, highlight just what makes his character so appealing sometimes. Both of his legs are broken and one of his arms are broken. Piccolo is just going to destroy him. He has no hope, but Goku says, no, I have one more arm still and I'm not going to give up. So he does the only thing he can think of. He launches a Kamehameha to get him in the air, and then he goes and gets out his fist and tries to get as much power into that final punch, that final attack, and hoping that it would be enough to defeat him. And it was. With that final attack, he bursts right through Piccolo's chest, killing him. It's just such a great, interesting moment, and probably one of the coolest ways to end a really long fight, and to end off an arc. Number 2. Goku becoming a Super Saiyan. I mean, that was pretty obvious. I kind of had to say it at one point. It's a very, very iconic moment that a lot of people remember. And the reason why it has my number 2 spot is because, in terms of its lasting impact, I think Goku turning Super Saiyan is one of the most important moments of the entire series. It changes how the entire series was presented. It was the first time that a character had actually gotten a power-up by pretty much character development, not necessarily from training, giving them a new form that they could access at will even later on once the arc was over. Story beats, it's honestly not that unique of a moment. We've seen Goku become enraged before. We've seen Goku filled with sort of righteous anger before. And we've seen it happen to Goku when someone has killed Krillin before. But the way it was handled was obviously much more of a bigger deal. It was something that had been foreshadowed through almost the entire arc. Even before Goku arrives on Namek, we've heard things about a Super Saiyan and what it is. It was really slowly always building up to. Eventually, everyone kind of expected Goku was going to become a Super Saiyan at one point. Toei figured it out way long before Toriyama even came up with a design for it, but the way it was handled was just so unique. The fact that it does make Goku's appearance change so drastically from how it was presented throughout the entire 6 years of the franchise up until that point. Goku looks completely different. His hair changes, his eyes change, his expression changes, the way he talks even changes. It's such a big turning point for his character, for the series, for just everything in general. It's what made Dragon Ball become this series that became associated with characters getting new forms. Something which has been continuing on throughout the rest of Dragon Ball manga and Dragon Ball Z, throughout Dragon Ball GT, and also throughout Dragon Ball Super. And none of that probably would have happened if we hadn't had this first transformation in the first place. And not to mention, the scene's influence on things outside of Dragon Ball cannot be denied. The Super Saiyan transformation basically created the entire trope of super mode, that having a character having a stronger form that they can access through like some kind of character development or through training. It's provided inspiration for so many other series, from like One Piece to Sailor Moon to freaking Sonic the Hedgehog. So as someone who originally was really interested in how Dragon Ball kind of created these formulas that we ended up becoming so popular much later on, obviously, like, just by its pure significant impact on media in general, this has to be a really high spot. But I know that's only number 2, so what's number 1? Well, I mean, if you guys know me well enough, I think you've probably guessed it already. Number 1, Gohan becomes a Super Saiyan 2. Honestly, just looking at it in terms of pure, raw impact on the rest of the series, and also just how iconic a moment is, Goku going Super Saiyan might actually be probably better at that. It probably does deserve my number 1, but Goku going Super Saiyan was not the thing that when I saw it made me decide that I have fallen in love with this series. That was when Gohan turned Super Saiyan 2. No matter what its flaws, it's still always going to be number 1, because it was what changed me from looking at Dragon Ball in a sort of love-hate relationship to just realizing that I love this series and I should embrace it. From the moment I saw it, I basically spent a long time trying to figure out why exactly I love it so much. I've looked at it from really many different angles, like a whole bunch of different interpretations of the scene. I've like done basically giant essays about it. But I think there's one underlying thing about it that I just love, and I think that other people also really love about it. And that's just the kind of messages that it sends, the kind of ideas that it sends. The ideas that I got from this scene was basically just sort of like, no matter what, you're better than you think you are, and no matter who you are, you can be something great if you just believe in yourself. Gohan was a character from the very start. Everyone saw that he had a lot of potential. He didn't necessarily realize it himself, but everyone else did know. And they knew that at one point, maybe he could actually use that kind of potential power and use it to become something amazing and something that people hadn't seen before. So when he does finally actually sort of realize that sort of hidden power of his, taps into it, taps into that potential, and becomes one of the strongest characters in the known universe, it basically means that every time a character previously had said, listen, Gohan, you're stronger than you think you are. It wasn't just bluster, it wasn't just them trying to make him seem more important than he actually is. It felt like it was something that was actually leading up to it. People said that Gohan had potential, that Gohan could be something amazing if he just understood it. And it does happen. Gohan does realize his hidden power, he becomes Super Saiyan 2, and he defeats Cell when nobody else could. Basically, when I saw it, it just sort of sent the message to me. It's like, never give up on yourself, because you can be much greater than you think you are. In fact, you can be the strongest thing in the entire damn universe if you really want to, if you work hard at it, and if you really believe in what you're capable of. I mean, I'll be completely honest, I'm the kind of person who doesn't have a lot of self-esteem. Sometimes I have moments where I feel like I don't really matter and I'm not really such a good person and I probably can't do anything. Which is probably why it resonated with me so much. Just this idea that don't just give up on yourself. Don't think that you're worthless. Because you're not worthless. In fact, you'll probably have the potential to be the strongest in the universe. You can save the world. You can do whatever you want to do. So don't give up. Not to mention, even the whole reason for the transformation itself was also a really nice idea about having Gohan, who ends up saying that he's sort of really kind of a pacifist, having 16's head basically tell him that even if you're a pacifist, even if you don't like violence and you don't want things to end in violence, sometimes there are moments where you just have to stand up and fight for what you believe in. And when that happens, there's nothing wrong with fighting. There is nothing wrong for standing up for yourself. There is nothing wrong for standing up for what you think is the right thing to do. And it doesn't help that Ume no Hi is amazing. If you guys have not seen Gohan Super Saiyan 2 transformation in Japanese, do me a favor and check it out right now because it's the best thing ever. And if you don't think it's the best thing ever, then whatever. But I think it's the best thing ever, okay? Alright, so that was my top 7 Dragon Ball moments. Okay, that got surprisingly heavy at the end. I was not expecting that to get that emotional. And now I have to probably tag someone. So, I mean, I feel like everyone has probably done something like this in a video, but maybe like top 7, maybe like a top 10 or something like that. But there's someone who I think probably could do it. What about... Hey, MJ, are you listening? MJ, Geeklista, whatever you're calling your channel now. I'm tagging you, so you'd better do it, alright? Anyway, thanks for sticking to the end. That list got a bit more interesting than I thought. But obviously, you know, for all you know, I'm going to change my list completely by, like, next week. So have fun with this for, like, the week when it's going to be relevant. So this is Gabby, signing out, and goodbye, guys.